Michael Jackson didn't become famous. He was made famous before he understood what it meant. Before identity, before independence, before choice. The world didn't watch him grow, the world consumed him while he was growing. And that changed everything. Childhood without ownership. Most people build identity slowly, through mistakes, through privacy, through time. Michael didn't have that. He had stages, cameras, expectations. From a young age, he wasn't just a child, he was a product. That's the first fracture. Because when performance replaces childhood, you don't develop identity, you develop responsibility without understanding. If you've ever felt pressure before you were ready for it, stay here. This is The Goal Lining, and I'm Kush Nathu, and I tell stories about what happens when success comes before stability. For Michael Jackson, success came too early. Perfection becomes the standard. Michael wasn't just talented, he was exceptional. And exceptional becomes expectation quickly. Every performance had to improve, every moment had to exceed the last. Perfection stopped being a goal, it became the baseline. That's where pressure changes. Because once perfection is expected, anything less feels like failure, even if it's still elite. The trap of being irreplaceable, Michael became something rare. Irreplaceable by irreplaceability but irreplaceability isn't freedom. It's pressure. Because when people believe only you can deliver, they stop protecting you. They push you. They demand more. They expect more. They take more. And the person inside the performance starts disappearing. The world saw the icon, not the person. Here's where the disconnect begins. The world saw the voice, the movement, the performance. They didn't see the exhaustion, the confusion, the emotional gaps, because icons don't get treated like people, they get treated like experiences. And experiences don't get rest. Now, the internal void. Michael had everything externally: fame, money, recognition. But internally, something was missing: a stable sense of self, because identity isn't built through applause, it's built through quiet. And Michael never had quiet. Now, why he kept escalating? As pressure increased, so did performance. Bigger stages, more elaborate shows, higher expectations. This wasn't ambition, it was survival. Because when your value is tied to performance, you don't slow down, you escalate, even when it costs you. The cost of never turning it off. Oof, Michael Jackson couldn't turn it off. Not fully, because when your identity is built around being on, silence feels uncomfortable, stillness feels unfamiliar, and eventually reality starts to feel less real than performance. That's dangerous over time. Things changed, not suddenly, gradually. Public perception shifted, scrutiny intensified, narratives formed. The same world that elevated him began questioning him. That's the risk of extreme visibility. The higher you rise, the more angles people have to interpret you. Isolation at scale. Michael wasn't just alone. He was alone while being watched by millions. That's a different kind of isolation, because you're visible but not understood, surrounded by but not connected, known but unknown. That contradiction breaks people. Why fame doesn't protect you is because it just doesn't protect. It exposes. Every flaw becomes visible, every decision amplified, every misstep magnified. Michael didn't have the option to fail quietly. Everything was public, and public pressure doesn't allow recovery, it accelerates collapse. The loss of control. At a certain point, Michael stopped controlling the narrative. The narrative controlled him. That's the moment everything shifted, because once perception overtakes reality, it becomes harder to stabilize. Not because the truth changes, because the audience does. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Success doesn't solve identity, it exposes whether you have one. Michael Jackson teaches us this: if you built your life around external validation, you risk losing the ability to define yourself without it. And without identity, success becomes unstable. Now, the final phase, pressure without relief. Even later in life, the pressure didn't disappear. It returned in a different form. Expectations of comeback, expectations of greatness again. The world didn't want evolution, it wanted repetition. And repetition under pressure is exhausting. If you're chasing success right now, this story isn't telling you to stop, it's telling you to build identity first. Because success without identity creates dependence, and dependence under pressure creates instability. The real legacy is Michael Jackson changed music, changed performance, changed culture. But his life leaves a question. What does it cost to become something the world can't let go of? Success amplifies everything: strengths, weaknesses, gaps. Michael's story isn't about talent, it's about what happens when the world defines you before you define yourself. If this story stayed with you, don't stop here. Click on the next video on your screen. It's another Golden Lining story about power, pressure, and the cost of visibility. I'm Kush Nathu, and this is the Golden Lining, and this is where success meets expectations.